Well, hey everybody, it's Sandy and welcome back to my channel. So today I have a quick announcement and then I'm going to finally talk about the masks I didn't review. I wonder if that's going to be like a part one of how many, right? Because there's a growing inventory of masks out on the market. That said, I really appreciate all the suggestions you guys have sent me and I want you to keep doing that. So I do look at every single one of them, but some of them I just don't review because they just don't meet certain criteria on paper, and I'm going to talk about that today. First, I want to say my usual welcome. I see I have some new subscribers. That's always a little celebration for me. It never gets old. For those of you who don't know, I don't do any affiliate links on my channel. I really started this channel kind of as a public service type thing in mind. And it's very important to me to not be biased when it comes to people's health. So I don't do any affiliate links. Masks I've reviewed, I've just bought them out of pocket with a few exceptions where the manufacturer sent them and I disclosed that. But for the most part, I've bought these out of pocket in order to review for you. So yeah, of course, I'd love to make it to YouTube partnership potential. So there's my announcement, guys. I've crossing the threshold for the necessary 4,000 hours in a year. Apparently that normally takes people a couple of years, so I'm so happy about it. The only other threshold I have to cross, though, is I need 1,000 subscribers. So I so appreciate the sharing the content with anybody who might find it helpful. And if you're not a subscriber, I hope you'll consider subscribing. And of course, if I can become a YouTube partner, that will help me offset the cost of continuing to do the work. So it's such a pleasure, and thanks so much. So on to the masks I didn't review. Yeah, again, please keep suggesting. The masks I didn't review, I found when I looked at this list, they fell into a few categories, okay? And one category was the basic fabric masks, which have to just do with blocking and filtering. So I did a video a while back that I'll link here, and it's about what to look for in a fabric mask. And basically the World Health Organization has an evolving, like a published standard now, but Sandy has a standard as well. And mine is basically the same as the World Health Organization's, but a little bit more strict. And it basically involves three criteria. One, the outside of the mask, I'd like it to be water repellent. And again, this is just for fabric masks, so it will repel drops. The middle layer, I like it to be polypropylene. Now, the World Health Organization says it can be all kinds of materials, and they give all these materials a score, but polypropylene is head and shoulders above all the rest in terms of its score, so I don't have any reason to go to something any less effective. And then on the inside, it should be moisture wicking. And one more thing, guys, that is not specific to fabric masks, but masks in general, valves are a big no. And if I could just diverge for a moment about valves. A valve is a comfort feature for the wearer. A valve is a one-way expiratory valve in a mask, and so what it means is when you inhale, the valve is shut, and when you exhale, it forces the valve open. So when you inhale, you're inhaling through the filter, and when you exhale, you're actually bypassing the filter. And the reason it makes for a comfort for the wearer is because when you bypass the filter, you don't have that momentary buildup of that warm, moist air all around your face that you've just exhaled. It just leaves through the valve without having to get kind of bogged down with the filter. Well, that sounds great for you, but you know, there are a lot of jurisdictions now that don't even allow you to wear a mask with a valve these days, because if the mask is meant for like pollution or something, you can see how the valve would be helpful. But if the mask is there to protect other people and you're letting everything you exhale bypass any kind of barrier in that mask so that you're more comfortable, then other people are more at risk. So until they show like some kind of a valve in specific that's, you know, particularly helpful to the wearer and safe for people around, you know, until then, I am not looking at any masks that have expiratory valves. So anyway, when I looked at these criteria, plus the valve issue, that sort of put a few masks right out of the running. The copper compression mask, which I actually did review, didn't meet these criteria. That was one of the earlier ones that I reviewed. First, it doesn't have an exterior that's water resistant. More importantly, this is maybe another aside, that the copper, you see copper all over the place. Yeah, it doesn't mean much, guys. So when it comes to these high-tech textiles, I have to see some testing, okay? There are only certain copper compounds that are actually profoundly antimicrobial, and then they have to be embedded in that fabric in a certain way, and there has to be a certain density of copper per unit fabric in order for them to be effective. So every other manufacturer that says copper, who's been like manufacturing sporting goods, is like using some copper basically for odor reduction and things like that. There's no reason to think it's profoundly antimicrobial, and there's no reason to get sucked into those claims if they don't produce the testing. So that's my other soapbox, the valve and the copper. So the copper compression mask fell out of the mix. The So Sway Shop, somebody sent me an inquiry about that, and that looks like a really interesting organization. It's like a community initiative to try to get everyone in the community masked. It's a very respectable endeavor. But unfortunately, it didn't meet the criteria, so it was still just a plain old cotton bandana. There's nothing water resistant on the outside. There's nothing particularly wicking on the inside, and it's got an insert for you to put your own filter in. So it's really very minimally protective, and probably not very protective without the filter. Jan-U is a company that makes scrubs, and they make these super comfy scrubs that a lot of nurses wear. They're like yoga clothes. And so they're real stretchy. They've got that 360-degree stretch. And like many manufacturers of clothing and other kinds of things that textiles are used in, they've expanded their business to offer masks now. But unfortunately, the masks are made out of exactly the same fabric as the Jan-U scrubs, which means they're nice and stretchy. So that elastic and stretchy quality is, that's a no in a mask. First of all, the expansion allows for easy entry for things like respiratory droplets. And also those elastics don't tend to hold up to washing. And then finally, I had somebody ask me about a mask called the AirKilo, AirQuilo, and I had such high hopes for that mask because, yeah, it looked like on their webpage, it probably met all the criteria and ticked all the boxes. But when I heard back from the manufacturer with my, last few questions, of course it didn't. Unfortunately, it's got this neoprene exterior that is not water resistant, and even if that didn't bother you, it has 4 layers, not 3, and the way the layers are ordered really made me wonder. So from outside to inside, it went neoprene, then cotton, and then polypropylene. And then the inner layer, which I think actually was moisture wicking for the wearer. My point is that it seemed to get more absorbent on the way in. So it's almost going to encourage respiratory droplets to pull inwards and go, through the neoprene, through the cotton, and then get to the polypropylene, polypropylene is somewhat water resistant, but it's pretty deep in the mask at that point. So I don't know, I think it was like a near miss, and I was a little disappointed when I heard back from them. Another group of masks that I found I ended up, ruling out, they fell into this category of masks that were originally designed to help with polluted air. So help people who are living in areas where the air quality is poor. First of all, a lot of masks that fall into that category have valves, and you can understand why. A valve makes good sense when you're using a mask for that reason, but it doesn't make good sense in the face of a pandemic. The other thing that a lot of the masks that are really manufactured with air quality in mind and not pandemic viral illness in mind is that they require replacement of filters, so continual replacement. And I didn't really like those for 2 reasons. I'm not saying that a replacement filter is out of the question. So for those of you who want to continue to suggest masks, it's not totally out of the question. But here's the issue that I don't like about them. Besides, there's the obvious, of course, which is the added expense over time of this device. So you buy the mask and then every so many weeks you buy the mask again. And meanwhile, the mask itself is losing its value, right? Because it's only good for a certain period of time until the fabric starts to erode, and you're still furnishing it with these brand new filters. It just adds exponentially to the cost of having the mask. That might have been one thing like a few months ago, but now with the market the way it is exploding with all these masks, I think that the buyer has more choices. And I prefer to stay away from those. But the main reason I want to stay away from things that need filter replacements is I noticed so many of them require a very specific filter that only they make. So it's this shape and this size, and it's, you're not sure about using something else in that, in its place. Well, when it all shakes out, some of these manufacturers are going to make it and some are not. They're going to fall off the board. So you could very well buy a very expensive mask and then not be able at some point to buy the replacement filters. They're on back order, they've been discontinued, they've gone out of business. And then, you kind of have to buy another mask all over again. So for that reason, I really try to stay away. It would have to just be a really fantastic mask for me to go with something that I'm going to have to replace filters on. So that left out several masks. First of all, it left out the Cambridge mask. The Cambridge mask also had a valve, but you could buy something called a deactivator. It was tested very well for filtration, but the thing is you can't tell how long it's good for because the only criteria they give you to tell you how long the Cambridge is good for. It has to do with, what the air conditions are like around you. So if you live in a place where there's a lot of smog, they say no more than 90 hours. So what's that, like 10 days? If you live in a place that doesn't have much smog, it was a different lifespan. But that doesn't really speak to the pandemic. So I don't really know how to cross-reference that and like know how long this thing might be safe, if it's even protecting me at all. Another one was the Aeronum. Now that came with a valve, and there was no way to deactivate the valve. This is the only model that make is with a valve. So it's a $75 mask that requires lots and lots of filters. So the valve already took it off the board. There's a one called Breathe 99. That's a mask that it's a soft mask, but it still has what looks like a seal. It's meant to really seal on the face, and I thought that was really interesting. But it is a Kickstarter, so nobody knows. I mean, at this point it's in production, but you could still put money in, and it's possible that it won't materialize into a mask being delivered to you. It's $59, and then it's $14 for each filter replacement. They come in pairs. You have to use pairs. It's like there's one off to each side of the mask. So, again, very expensive over weeks. They say to change the filters daily if you're using the mask like all day. If you're using it 2 to 4 times a week, they said you might be able to change it, every 2 weeks. It just seems like really expensive, plus that it's a Kickstarter. I don't mind keeping my eye on it, but as long as there are better alternatives out on the market, I wasn't really willing to go in on the Kickstarter deal for the Breathe 99. The Halo mask. The Halo mask had really good testing for particle size, but again, it's a change filter weekly. It's $35, but the filters are each like $5. So 5, 10, 15, 20. I mean, think about it's a big part of the expense of that mask is actually just the filters. And then I had one that I had such hopes for. I was still looking at it. It was taking me a while to get my questions answered. And a lot of you had asked me about O2 Canada. And that's a mask that's like a hard shell. And it looks like, I mean, they call it a respirator. I don't think it would meet standards in the United States to be called a respirator mask, but I think it's close. It truly does look like a sealed system, and the filtration is tested. It is produced by a company that is in Canada licensed to make medical products. It's not FDA approved or NIOSH approved, and I don't think they're even seeking that. It is pretty expensive. So I had a little bit of trepidation about that. It's a $70 mask, and it's 5 filters for $7.99. And they say in clinical settings, guys, they say to change it every day. But since we're not wearing these in clinical settings, I don't know if you want to be safe, or the whole reason you're wearing this mask is because of potential for, a viral illness in this pandemic. Seems to me then you'd probably change it every day. They say the maximum is 2 weeks. So that's if you were wearing it for an air quality issue, although I don't know why you would have a respirator on your face for that. But in the end of the day, it has a valve. So I asked them about that. It doesn't say anything on their website about a valve. It doesn't. When you look at the specs of the mask, you can't find a thing. But I noticed in the design of the mask on the shell, there was like a tiny little round area just on the bottom of the mask. And I thought, what is that? It's not a logo. It looks like it must be a valve, and they weren't talking about it. And finally, I did hear back from them, and O2 Canada has a valve. So very protective for the wearer. If you have just no social conscience at all, that might be one to get. I don't know. I'm not going to look at it. I don't want to put my money into that particular mask, and I don't want to recommend it to anybody because of the valve. So let me know if this was helpful. Those were the bulk. Maybe I missed a couple. If I missed one that you recommended or that you suggested, let me know. Just go ahead and put it in the comment box. I hope it was helpful. Again, I so appreciate any of the sharing. If you haven't become a subscriber, I hope that you will. And I'm so happy that people are taking this journey with me. So until next time, be well. Bye-bye.